It is time to take a look at the week in business. Amanda Lang joins us. She's host of Taking Stock, which airs Friday evening at 6 o'clock on BNN Bloomberg and all across the iHeart Radio network. And she's here right now. Amanda, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Again.
Didn't we? I thought we'd agreed. We're done with the Happy New Year's.
I think this
you had
is
to get one more in there. You just had to.
End of this week, and then I think we're done. So let me start off with a story that's getting a bit of, I guess, dominating the news cycle, at least for a little while anyway. This idea, Canadian press discovering some documents that showed that our own government was warned 2 years ago about how high immigration could affect housing, and that's exactly what we're starting to see. So this is a big story.
Yeah, in some ways it's a big story. In other ways, it's a bit obvious in the sense that the housing problem has been around for so long. We can go back 10 years and see Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, our housing regulator, having research done showing that we were out of whack, that our supply was not keeping up with demand. So for sure, when you look at what is the impact of increasing immigration, that would have been one of the factors. I guess the part that the government may have to own and respond to is not that the facts existed, but that maybe more wasn't done in conjunction with raising immigration, because it's a piece of the puzzle, but it did not cause the problem. Immigration is not our problem. It's that we didn't build enough homes for too long.
And I like that you touched on the fact that it's not a new problem. And God, I mean, I think back for hundreds of years at this point, people have come here and then ghettos exist because we didn't have the infrastructure in place to take care of them properly. But it's kind of astonishing that we haven't learned from past mistakes.
It is, and it isn't in a way. I mean, unfortunately, we've allowed our housing market to become something that's slightly distorted away from just a need for shelter, which is what, post-World War II, we built homes because people needed to live somewhere. Now there's an added element of people treat them as investments. They own more than one. And by the way, a big number of members of parliament own investment houses. So are they conflicted on this question of what to do about the housing market? Because if you own one, you don't actually, in a way, you don't want more supply. You want scarcity of demand to drive prices up. So the market is working the way it should, but it's not really working for us anymore.
I wonder if based on this, and I guess, obviously governments have known about this for a while, as this report shows, do you think you anticipate a change here? It seems to me the government every week, someone is out there announcing more housing starts here, more housing starts there. Are we likely to see a change in immigration figures?
I mean, where we've seen the focus so far has been on students. And that's fair, I think, to say, whether you're a student or a business, if you are going to bring people in, you should be aware of their housing needs. So I think including those organizations in the problem is a good idea. Limiting international visas is already on the table for students. Will we see a slowdown in immigration? It doesn't seem like it, not with this government. It seems as though they're pretty keen to follow through on the plan to boost the population. And remember, we do need to do that. One of our biggest issues economically is our demographics. So Canada is actually lucky that people want to come here. We're blessed that immigrants choose it. They tend to be good for us economically, but there is a period of integration. And for goodness sakes, we do need to make sure that there's basic services for the people we have. So housing, health, education, that all has to be considered.
Hear, hear. All right. So perhaps some good news coming for people trying to book flights. Although I have to tell you, anytime I've tried lately, I'm horrified at how high the prices are. But perhaps more competition might be driving prices down in coming days.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because I have to confess I was just recently looking at it and I canceled the trip because the flight was so egregiously expensive. This is a story focused on particularly Calgary to points east, so Calgary, Toronto, because the theory is that because a lot of the airlines shut down their Atlantic routes, which they did, there's a lot more competition in some of those western routes. And so people who do want to travel in between, say, Toronto, Calgary, could do well in the months ahead. I hope that's true for their sake. The dark side of that story is in the very same analysis. You see people saying that'll drive one of the discount airlines out of business. So this will be short-lived and then prices will go up again. The other problem I would point to, for you and me, is that the costs for airlines are not coming down. Wages are up, fuel costs are going up. So those high-priced tickets, they might be here for a little while.
We're talking about tickets across the country, but of course, for people who book vacations who want to get out of here, I mean, Natasha, in your particular case, we're not talking about something exotic, just trying to get to Florida. Yeah. The prices are, they're mind-blowingly expensive right now. It's crazy. It makes no sense.
Over $1,600 per person to fly Air Canada Rouge on like crappy flight times too. It's like I was stunned, astonished that it has gotten that bad.
It's amazing. And now one of the things that usually happens in a recession is that things like the price of air travel comes down. People will travel less. So there's a possibility of that. But I guess I'm going to go back to, with the costs for airlines staying high, we might actually be in this terrible situation where we get a mild recession and we don't get a break on airfare. So it's going to be interesting actually to see whether that's one cost component that just stays. Remember, airlines took tons of capacity offline in pandemic, and they all said it would take years to, it's a long, slow process to get back to full capacity. So I remember Air Canada saying it would be 2025 before they were fully back.
Yeah, I never bought that argument, by the way, fully. If you park a plane, stick it in the desert somewhere because you're restricting the routes you travel. When people are booking again, I mean, we went through this whole idea, I thought, of revenge travel, and I know that's past. If there are fewer people now flying because that revenge cycle is over, prices should start coming down. I mean, just supply and demand, put those planes back into, back in the air. I'm not saying there's collusion going on here, Amanda. I'm just saying it seems this has gone on for too long.
You're right to ask the question, I think. We'd have to dig in to see, did they retire old planes and they have to train people on the new planes? There may be reasons why it takes longer, but I guess you're right to ask that question and be a little cynical. It's always healthy to be a little cynical.
Well, I'm just thinking
we're a lot cynical here.
Yeah, we're a lot cynical.
Yeah.
We're good at that. And people must be paying the price, right? Like those prices would not stay at those levels if people weren't willing to pay them. So some people are paying those prices. I'm not. No
exactly.
way.
Yes,
all right.
Exactly.
Big story this week, and I saw this today. It's in our paper here in the Montreal Gazette. Over 150,000 Canadian businesses are now facing that deadline. I know we've talked about the CEBA loans before, but here it is. It's January 2024. Now they're due. There are a lot of businesses having a tough time trying to pay this back. I know the government has resisted extending it another year, which is what a lot of businesses had asked for initially. That's clearly not going to happen. What happens when these loans can't get paid back?
Some of them were told, and this is especially true in the service sector, so a lot of restaurants apparently will go under. That's just the facts. They will have a cost they can't meet, and that will be the end of them. And I will say, and this is not a popular view, and but I've said it before, that is unfortunately the right thing, I think, economically to allow to happen, in the sense that the loans were put in place as an emergency, and it was supposed to tide businesses over a difficult period. It can't go on forever. And one thing we don't want is tax dollars propping up businesses that shouldn't be in business. So some will be the innocent victims of a global pandemic and just won't be able to weather it. Others probably should, rethink their strategy and close up shop and think again about what they're doing and how they're doing it. So there's a natural cycle.
Okay. My issue with that is, and I agree with you largely, but then I think the mom and pop shops are really paying the price, whereas companies like Bombardier have been allowed to go on for years and years.
Yeah, but 'twas ever thus, right? Like businesses start and I think you'd be shocked. I certainly was when you look at just the sheer rate of business failure. 50% of businesses will fail in the first 5 years of our startups. There's a natural kind of churn. And that's that kind of creative destruction of the economy. Hard for the people involved, perhaps. But on the other hand, also, we don't want to stay in a business that's not working, right? You want to be in a business that is functioning properly. So this is tough. The government did extend these loans a couple of times. I think at some point businesses, there will be some pain to be felt here, but 150 sounds like a big number. I think if we put it in the context of normal business closures, it's actually not as terrible as it sounds.
I will point out one thing. I found it interesting. Talk about entrepreneurship. There are companies now in Canada who have sprung up, and at least a couple, to say, look, if you're having trouble paying this back as a business, we'll pay it back for you, and they will give you the money. Now you owe them the money instead of the government. I wonder what that does down the line.
Yeah, and proceed with caution, obviously. And anytime you're in a place where you're choosing an alternative lender, sometimes it's a great market solution because you need it and it's the only way to get it. But chances are you're paying a lot more for that, and it may not be the wisest choice.
Amanda, thank you so much. Always appreciate it. Great hearing from you.
Great to talk.